Good morning. Today we're going to do several things. One of them, obviously, to discuss about the slide presentation styles. And what I mean by styles is that how we design our fonts, background color, shape of object, etc., and so on. But then on the other hand, as we knew from past YouTube video watching, we do aware that a presentation slide can be done in different types of styles, obviously, and it depends on the purpose of the presentation, whether it's a normal public speaking, whether it's a corporate meeting, whether it's a internal meeting with our advisor, or we have a defense to deliver, or a research result that we need to present in front of the seminar. And therefore, the thing that I'm going to discuss on the slide styles is only a version, okay, that we usually use in academic settings. And from one of the videos that we watched previously, the thing that is taught by academician or professors for this type of courses tends to be a little bit, rigid, conservative, classical, black and white, plain, simple, right? Doesn't have that dynamics or pleasure in terms of the eyes, etc., and so on. But nevertheless, that is the styles that we usually have in academic environment, where we tend to teach our students to make slide presentation simpler, because the focus is not on the slides but on the presenter itself. Because in terms of defense, for example, the main focus is how students' understanding about the material explored on that occasion, whereas the PPT is only a tool that helps us in delivering those research results for us. And here, okay, let me begin with today's class with the slide styles. As we knew from past lectures, that in presentation there are three components that need to be prepared. First is the structure and speech, the oral or the voice of the presenters, and then the visual aids, okay, and also the delivery, how we deliver the content that we prepare for that occasion. And then one type of visual aids that deserve reflection is the presentation slides, where here it shows an example on how the combustor simulator is described, and the choice of words or fonts that is used in this type of presentations. Clearly, it's not that too academic, because it uses some kind of a Comic Sans type of fonts that are too formal or conservative. Sometimes we do use this type of fonts in order to escape from rigidity, escape from the norm that we have in a presentation, because sometimes we need some kind of an emphasis on a point, or we need to make some kind of a differentiation from the rest of the slide, for example, and therefore we choose to use this type of fonts. Audience remember more when you use well-designed slide, even if it's simple. Okay, it doesn't need to be sophisticated in terms of the design. It not to be use too many colorful slides that will be remembered. Even for a simple black and white slides, the audience or your advisor will remember a particular slides if you able to design it properly. Okay, so here are the percentage on how an audience will remember or recall on your slides. 10% on what they're hear, 20% on what they see, and 50% is more on the what they hear and what they see, and the rest of it is based on the visual of yourself as the presenter, so that you must aware when you are presenting offline, especially you need to choose the best or the correct clothes for your presentation. You must choose the appropriate dress or the appropriate attire when you deliver that offline presentation. For online as well, I guess we talked about this previously in one of the videos that we saw in some past meetings, that the choice of color, choice of attire will enhance your ability to speak clearly and not bother with the shape of the clothes that you wear, and also the audience or your advisor or your examinee will not also get bothered with the clothes that you wear as a presenter. So they're more be focused on the slides and also your talk itself. Okay, major errors, per choice in terms of slide design, per choice of font style and size, per choice of colors for background and text, and then too many data that is shown on some figure or picture, too many lines of text and no obvious conclusions. Okay, okay, the font we use. Okay, so today what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce or to describe the slide styles as concise as possible, so that we can move on to the next agenda that is listening to the rest of the students who haven't able to present on February the I keep forgetting the date when we have the last meeting. Okay, for those of students who are not able to present on February the 24th, I'm going to give a chance for presenting today after I'm done with the discussion on the slide styles. Okay, so the font that we usually use, the formal one is a sans serif font. So this is the one that we usually choose for slide presentation, whether it's a Calibri or Arial. And serif fonts take longer to read. So this is why I suggest you to not bother to add sentences in your slides, but replace them with keywords or short phrases. And then Times New Roman is another type of fonts that we can choose, but I'm not going to recommend this because it's too formal. Okay, too formal, and it is more appropriate on a paper. Okay, instead of slide presentation. However, if you want to make some kind of a break or to emphasize something or to make some kind of a differentiation between text and figures, we could choose this one, Times New Roman, as a way to break from the common or the majority of fonts that we use for that presentation. And then another type of fonts are Courier, Didot, Comic Sans, and Papyrus. And Comic Sans can be considered as a fancy fonts in a scientific meeting. However, we still can use this in order to break from the common fonts that we use for the entire slides, or we need to emphasize something. We want to show that this is the main slides of today's presentation. So we use that Comic Sans as an accent or as a symbol that this is the most important slides of today's presentation, for example. However, for Papyrus, I'm not going to recommend that choice of fonts for a formal presentation. However, if you are going to deliver something in informal meeting or in a more relaxed situation, probably you can choose this type of fonts for your presentation. Or maybe you are gave a small talk on the application of science in cooking, for example, or application of science in music, or application of science in paintings, things that are not that heavy. Okay, probably choosing this type of fonts will be more appropriate compared to the more conservative sans serif fonts. Okay, so here are the comparison. Okay, this is the comparison between sans serif fonts and non-sans serif fonts in the similar size, on the same size, and you can see that the accent or the perception of our eyes obviously different. Okay, the above letters gave a feeling of a formality, whereas the bottom three gave us another perception. Okay, especially the bottom two, it gave us more relaxed, I guess, in terms of the perception. Well, that's what I'm seeing anyway. And here we can see also that Times New Romans have this accent, or have this it's some kind of a branch. I don't know what the correct terminology in terms of typography. That is different with Arial and Calibri, where the edges is not that sharp. Okay, in Times New Roman, it has a sharp edge, like here in the capital N and the capital R, whereas in other fonts we don't see them because it has a different design in the typography, and maybe if we deals with the the perception or psychology of people who saw the design of one letters or one fonts, they have that different impressions in seeing the Arial, Calibri, and Times New Roman fonts. Okay, here are the, and then we need also to look at the spaces that one fonts has, because one have larger space between them, and obviously the sans serif one is typically more uniform. Okay, here are the introduction of size. For those of you who are not that familiar with PowerPoint, this obviously tells you about different size of fonts, will give you different perception and impression. I forgot what his name. If we want to make an emphasis on our slide, it's better to use larger size fonts, okay, to describe or to explain that this is the main topic of the slide. And if it's only a additional information for such a, for example, a title, he suggests to use smaller fonts because that is not the focus of that slide. Remember that one professor who teach the death of PowerPoint. It's introducing a different approach on how we design PowerPoint. Because usually in academic settings, what happens is the opposite, where we have a big fonts for the title and a smaller font for the content, because we are going to deliver so much information in our defense, for example, that we use larger fonts for the title and a smaller font for the description below. Whereas on his opinion, it should be the way around. It's the opposite. So we need to emphasize the main points using larger fonts and the title using a smaller font. So it's basically again back to the common rules that one department has. So we still need to follow that. But if we are given the freedom, the independence to choose any styles, we can also apply the suggestion that he made in his presentation, in his video. Okay, avoid using all capital letter because it's much harder to read. Okay, and then it's make the impression that we are kind of angry, right? Usually in a short message, if we type in all caps, it means that we kind of angry with the person. The same impression also happens during a presentation, so avoid this. But it is true that sometimes PowerPoint template will give us the they don't give so it's the way around. They basically didn't give us options to make it smaller. Okay, so they gave us all caps as the templates for certain site presentation. And then color. Okay, dark letter against a light background work, and dark letter against a light background are best for small room or for teaching. So for for occasions such as lecturing or a small size meeting, the best choice based on this slide is based on this lecture note is that you use white background and black fonts. However, the opposite is also work, but you need to use it on a different setting. Okay, so for light letters against a dark background also work, but it tends to be more appropriate if you are delivering a speech like in TED meeting or in a hall where the light on that room is going to be dim. Okay, so you are delivering a presentation in a room that is a little bit dark compare when all lights is on. Okay, so many experts feel that dark blue or black background works best for a talk in a large room. And also when the light on the seminar room or on the hall room is going to be darkened, okay? And the eyes of the audience is a little bit relaxed when we saw that type of presentation where we choose to use black or dark background with a white or bright color fonts. And obviously never to choose this one, okay, because it's make our eyes tired easily, okay. So that avoid gray and red combination, because a large fraction of human population is red-green colorblind, and also lots of people cannot read this, and even if they could, it makes our eyes hurt. So the antidotes of PowerPoint poisoning: choose color carefully. Okay, so this type of combination of background and words or fonts using fonts used in a slide. Okay, let me turn on the pointer. So this is the worst choice. Obviously, this one is the best. But if we use a white background and a bright color font, this is the worst choice. This is the best choice, and this is the worst. So if we use dark background and dark font color, it's not going to be recommended. Okay, so slight background, font size, and color. So these are the combinations. And also, for example, if you use light green, okay, light green, and also a light green and also a yellow fonts, it's going to be a headache as well. Okay, do and don'ts in the layout. Keep the layout and style as consistent as possible. Every slide should have a heading like this one. Okay, it is true that one of the if you look at the depth of PowerPoint videos, the presenter or the professor asks to not to be focused on the headings. Sometimes we could remove the heading because we need to focus on the content itself. However, in academic settings, we usually have a heading, a PowerPoint number, a slide number, and also a concise or simple content. Okay, try to limit text block to no more than 2 lines each. Okay, so the reason of limiting text block to 2 lines is that when the text block goes on and forever, people in the audience are going to have to make huge effort to read the text like this one. So this is the example. If you put a sentence or a paragraph in a slide presentation, people will try to read it, okay? And if you also read the material as the presenter or as the teacher, it will make not very good presentation. Okay, so every time you lose their focus, your presentation suffers. So is it effective to unveil a list point by point like this one and add with keywords or small phrases? Do not overuse animation. If you want to use animation, choose the simplest one for a scientific meeting presentation for your defense as well. But if you are presenting in front of a high school students or children, maybe you could use animation throughout your presentation. However, for public speaking, for example, if you are the one that is responsible for informing the people related to COVID, so your presentation slide needs to be also simpler, and the reader will able to read it in a relaxed mode, and then the layout needs to be simpler. Okay, and for your defense or for seminar, etc. and so on, it's better to use keyword like this one. So avoid writing a group of sentences or a paragraph inside of your presentation. Choose this instead. Keyword, okay, keyword or key points or small phrases related to your topic on this slide. Okay, these are common for an informal meeting, hand clap. However, for other purpose, which is formal and strict, okay, do not use those type of sound effect. Okay, another do and don'ts in the layout: do not cram too much into one slide. Okay, try your best to include a simple image on every slide. So these are similar to the thing that is mentioned in the previous lecture in terms of the depth of PowerPoint. Do not cram everything in one slide. We need to break it into several slides so that the slides number increase, but we can focus on them easier because we basically show one figure to another in different slides. Like this one, okay, this is not recommendable if you have this type of, well, this is, we usually see this, okay, sometimes even our professors done this because probably in the past there are no scientific communication type classes when they are in graduate graduate studies or in their undergraduate studies. So they put everything on the slide, and this will tire themselves and as well as the audience. Okay, it is better to, so instead of this one, okay, instead of cramming all of the information like this one, they can choose to make as simple as this one. Okay, so I'm not going to explain about this because this is not my expertise, because it's more on the biophysics or biology, and therefore it's just an example on how we change from this cramming information in one slide like this one into a simpler one like this one. So this is more preferable. Okay, layout. It is the rule of thumb that we usually have: one topic per slide, or at most 2 slides, and then be generous with space. Okay, so to conclude, slide style and design as the audience. Pay attention to the background color, font types, and be generous with space. Okay, so another thing that we need to pay attention beside the background color, font types, and space, the design is also important. I mean, the layout of one picture, etc., and so on. And we usually, if we have offline meetings in a seminar room or in a hall room, we have this type of situation where the screen of our presentation is small compared to the room itself. Okay, well, obviously, if you are presenting in a well-equipped room or well-prepared room that is carefully maintained or carefully prepared by the professional in one seminar building, or in a convention building, or in a hotel, etc., and so on, they already knew how to match the size of the room and also the size of the screen that one will use when they have a meeting. So therefore, there's an airplane. So therefore, when you are designing your PowerPoint, pay attention also to the size of your picture as well if you're going to add a picture or a graph into your slides, so that all of the audience, even at the back row of the seminar room, will see the figure in a clear vision. Okay, the structure of presentation, this is the common one. It starts with the beginning, which is the introduction, okay, and then the middle part, which is the methods, basic theory, analysis, etc., and so on, and then the ending is the summary or the conclusion. Okay, here is the common style that we have in scientific meetings. So here are the title of presentation in initial capitals. This is the recommendation, okay, to use 36 point or larger caliber bold, and then here are the keywords. Okay, oh, sorry. These are the title slides. So just like the first slide that you want to introduce yourself. Okay, this is one alternative that you can use. Is to put the title of your presentation and then your name, department, institution, the date of the presentation, and then the logo. Sometimes a scientific meeting has their own logos that you need to add on your slides. And then here are the key image for introducing talk, or the key figure or the most important figure of your presentation. You could also put it this way. However, for your defense, sometimes the advisor will ask you to make them simpler. So the thing that you already done in your 3 minutes presentation, most of them are already designed well. You have your title, your name, your evaluation, and that's all. I mean, what kind of information that you need besides that? Okay, well, obviously for your defense, you don't need to put too many figures, okay, or the logo, because sometimes the advisor wants to make it simpler. However, if you need, if you want to make them a little bit fancy or a little bit a difference with the common conservative styles, you can also to choose this type as well, like this one. Okay, it has a proper title above, and then the names of the author, and then the names of the speaker, and then the affiliation, and then the date of the presentation. And this is the most important figure of the talk, which cover the depletion, atmospheric mercury depletion event in polar regions. So it shows the polar Arctic region during spring, and it will measure the mercury concentration in the atmosphere. So these are the graph that shows the depletion, okay, of the mercury level in Arctic during spring. And here are the authors or the speaker affiliation. Okay, here is another examples. However, the figure, okay, the figure itself is a little bit simple, and it is not that eye-catching compared to this one. Okay, so the design or the choice of figure when you're going to present, make sure that the thing that you want to put in the title slides is colorful enough to make the audience catch the first impression of your presentation. Okay, here is focus, because okay, compared to this one, the title of this presentation is not very well designed. because it's too cramped. Okay, the space over, it doesn't have too much space. It's full of letters, and the way on to improve this one is to reduce the words used for the title, or to make the size smaller. Okay, and for the author's name and affiliation, etc., and so on, is too small, and the affiliate, and then the logo of the author affiliation is too big. Okay. So rather than this one, it is better to choose this one. However, I'm not that well. I guess this example is taken from an era where black and white figures is usually produced, but nowadays we usually use a colorful figure like this one. Okay, so if you have an eye-catching and colorful figure that is basically the main point of your presentation, we can use it as the as the accessories for your title slides. Because I call it accessories because adding a figure in our title slides or our first slide is not that compulsory. It is more important to put the title of your presentation, your names, and your name, and then your institution affiliation on because those three are the basic information that you need to put on your title. Okay, but if you are going to present in a scientific meeting, for example, then you may choose this one to grab the attention of the audience. Okay, because you have different audience in your defense and in a seminar. Okay, institution logo can be replaced on each slide or on the first slide and the last. If you do place a logo on each slide, make sure that logo is at the bottom of slide so that it will not become the main focus. Okay, here's why the size of your institution logo needs to be smaller, because if you have this size, it makes the focus, or it makes the attention of the audience to this point, not to the content. Okay, introduction slide, the most important slide. Everyone is paying attention because if you remember, the attention span of your audience usually have the highest focus on the first minutes of your presentations and give the big picture. Okay, if you have a simple title that can be understood by the audience easily, use that. Okay, and then you should introduce to and then you should introduce the take-home message that you're going to explain about that topic for the rest of the presentation period. Okay, so introduction. Okay, so here now we are moving to the introduction or the stories or the background story slide. I guess most of you already done this, so I'm just going to skip this. Yeah, this is the bad example on how we create introductory slides because it's too cramped. This one is better. Okay, this one is better because it has simpler figures. Okay, simpler composition of a picture and keywords or small phrases over here, and also there's an eye-catching sentence. Okay, so this is where a sentence could be useful. If we take our study goals, okay, or our presentation goals like this one, it can also catch the attention of the audience. Can we use chemistry to control morphology like this one? Well, this one also, well, it's kind of debatable on this one because some people will say this is eye-catching enough to grab the audience attention, but sometimes in a very formal meeting, we need to remove this cartoon, okay, because we need to focus more on this one instead. However, if your scientific meeting is not that rigid, we can still use this one to grab the audience attention. Okay, so here is the mapping of the main body of our presentation. So if we have a flow chart, if we have a process that we need to describe, we could make the the box chart, the text box or the figure like this one. Okay, so that we have this progressing outline or progressing organization. We have this organized process or organized flow of the thing that we need to cover. Okay, the body of presentation, we use headline, no more than 2 lines to make an assertion about this topic. So in scientific meeting or in your defense, it is preferable to use a headline over here or the title of your current slide in your body, and then in your body part of your presentation. And then consider having a first topic image from the mapping slide repeated here, and then if necessary, support that headline with image and with words. Okay, it is suggested with image and words, but not sentence. Okay, do not use sentence on the body of your presentation. It is better for you to use keywords, small phrases, and that's it. Okay, never use sentence, and even never put a paragraph, a full paragraph inside your body. Okay, here are the example. I'm just going to skip. This. These sentence headlines makes an assertion on the first topic in no more than 2 lines. So this is the example. Okay, fragments quickly outpace the blast wave and become the primarily hazard personnel. This one also an eye-catching figure to inform about the fragments due to explosive. And then this also a way or an example on how we present our body of presentation in a concise and simple way. Okay, here are the informative data. This is the data, and this is the conclusion or the keywords of this figure, or the description or a brief description on this figure. And also, if you already have this published in one's journals, you could also add this journal as well, or the references. Okay, this is another example. Okay, these are the design of your slides that you can choose. The simplest one is this one. Okay, or you can also do this. Or you can also choose this one. But here, make sure that your chosen text is not too much. Okay, so this is not. So if you able to make a simpler design, it is more preferable to choose this one instead of this one. But if you still choose this one, make sure that the text and the image is placed in the correct manner so that it will not. So for example, sometimes you could use this type of slide. Okay, this type of slides, if you are going to compare, okay, compare between one treatment to another, then you may to use this type of arrangement. But nevertheless, this is more preferable if you have a formal scientific meeting. Okay, another thing is the next slide show one orientation for the image and text in the body of slides. Other orientation can also be used. Choose the orientation that best support your headline insertion. Okay, okay. Here is the example, like this one. Okay, This is one of the best example of your presentation body. This one also, okay, and this basically shows the flow or the description on a mechanism of this machine or this process from step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Okay, you can also choose this one as a body presentation, but obviously this is more complex to the previous slides. Okay, so you can choose to manage your transition in different slides, or you could also make a transition in the same slide but use the proper animation like this one. Okay, in body of presentation, notice how animation works to allow the speaker to present fairly complex connection in a way that the audience can digest, but please remember to make them simpler and the audience easy to follow. Okay, do not use too many sound effects or too many animation that will bother the presentation. And then, okay, and then notice how the arrows show connection, something that bullets could not achieve. So you can choose to use animation for one slides to make a transition between one process to another, or you can use many slides. Okay. Okay. In body of presentation, do not use too many slides, too many information that wanted to be conveyed. Okay, do not use too many slides. Okay, too many slides. It is not recommendable. And the non-expert audience cannot remember that far back, and then you lose the concentration of the audience. So, for example, like this anecdote, as you can clearly see in the slide 397. Okay, so nobody will remember that if you have that long presentation. Okay, here are the summary, conclusion, and acknowledgement. Use the headlines to state your most important conclusion. Begin the headline in summary. Make it simpler. Reiterate take-home message, or the conclusion, or the take-home message is whether you're able to fulfill the research objective. Okay, and then support that headlines with image and parallel lines. The slides should be at your last slides, and audience will lose passion when they believe they have to come to the end. So with this suggestion, it is told also implicitly that you never put your reference list as the end of your presentation. Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't know who teach you how to make presentation, but from our previous 3 minutes presentation, many of you still use the reference list as your ending, and that is not the proper ending. Okay, because the reference list is more suitable for a paper, for your scriptsy, okay, for your final project work. So it is not common for presenter to show off their reference list as the closure, or as the closing of a presentation. Okay, so I'm not so after this. Okay, so after this, whenever we have a presentation, whether it's in 8 minutes presentation, 15 minutes presentation, or if we are going to meet again in your defense, I'm not going to I'm not willing to see the reference list as your ending. Okay, because it is not common. It is unless, well, sometimes it do exist due to the fact that your teacher, your advisor of your thesis or of your final project ask you to put the references, but in my opinion, it is not necessary. It is you just remove that reference list in your paper, but not on your presentation. Okay, here is the way to make a concluding slides. Okay, And then for summary, conclusion, and acknowledgement, notice that the word questions appear at the bottom of the slides is to mark the transition between your end of presentation to the Q&A session. Okay, because in 15-minute presentation, we're going to have that Q&A session on the last part. And however, to put this question mark in the text box is not compulsory. It depends on yourself when you are designing this slide. If you think that this is important in your presentation, you may use this. If not, then you can just say that I guess that is the conclusion of my presentation. So if you have questions, please ask them. Freely, like that. So you make the transition with your voice instead of putting a question mark on the slide. That's another approach. Okay. Okay, this slide allows the audience to look at the most important slide of the presentation during the question period. Okay, okay, in summary, detector failed. Okay, this is also an example of closing slides that tells us the failures of the detector due to the circuit created. Questions? Okay, here is an example. And do not forget to give proper credits to all parties. Give acknowledgement for those who fund you, for those who gave you scholarship, for those who help you during your experiment. Okay, in the acknowledgement. Okay, like this one. Okay, to conclude, slide style and design aids. Sorry. To conclude, slide style and design will aid the audience understanding your presentation, and it also will help you. It will help you as the presenter itself. So choose good font styles and size. Use good background color and text. Keep text short and simple. Do not overuse animation. Keep figures as simple as possible, and then do not use too many slides. Okay, that is all for the discussion on the slide styles. Again, this is given for those of you who wants to create a formal scientific presentation. It is usually suitable for a defense settings, for a talk in a seminar settings, in a public speaking settings, but not in informal. If it's an informal meeting, then the choice of color, the choice of size, the choice of fonts is becoming more loose. You have freedom to design whatever you want to make. Okay, so please remember that these is more suitable for scientific meeting and defense that we usually have in Department of Physics. That is tend to be more conservative and formal, simpler, etc. and so on. Okay, so if you have the experience on, for example, you are having an internship on a design company, or you have a work experience in creative institution, or in a company that deals on creative works, then you're not going to present in this simplistic way, obviously, right? So the audience and also the environment where you have the presentation will be also different. Okay, I think that is for the slide styles lecture. Let us have a 5-minute break before we are moving on to the next topic, which is to listen to your colleague 3 minutes presentation for those of whom who haven't had a chance to present on February the 24th, and also to look up on your feedback on the mid-semester question. Okay, so let us have a break for 5 minutes.
Okay. Wait a minute, sir. Let me. Is it?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, is it okay if I'm like off cam?
Okay, for this one, but let us test. Because in 8 minutes and also in 15 minutes presentation, everybody needs to turn on their camera because we need to see your gesture, your eye contact, so that we could see so that we could evaluate whether you are presenting it with knowledge or you are just reading from a text. Okay, but for now it's okay, Pradina. If you're not able to turn on your camera, then it is okay for you to just deliver the presentation for 3 minutes.
Okay, Mr. Wait, it's kind of like, okay, wait. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, good morning, everyone. First of all, my name is Radil Satrio, and my name is. Aku mulai. Am I? Could I just start it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm kind of nervous. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone, and especially Mr. Harry. I'm Radion Satrio, and I'm from Faculty of Humanities, Arabic Literature from Pajajaran University. And today, I'm gonna talk or present about the topic is synthesizers, physics of music, and how it changed music production. So in this scientific communication class, I'm gonna talk about synthesizers. Okay, this is my presentation outline, which is maybe the discussion points is gonna like have a lot in introduction and then purpose or aims, and then how does it work, the synthesizer, how does it works, and how it change the music industry. Okay, so first of all, for most of human history, music could only be produced in a limited number of ways. So this means like it implies the music is not really like has a lot of range. It's like it drive from mostly guitar, and then there's a like cello, and then violin, and then it's like really going around in the circle of that. So a synthesizer is an electronic instrument that use some form of digital or analog processing to produce audible sound. Okay, so basically a synthesizer is like people like think how about we could make some music more diverse, and then how could we change the sounds of the guitar is more diverse and more tweaking or more like has varieties in the sound itself. Okay, so this is in image one. You could see it's like Roland synth. It's basically synthesizer looks like keyboard, but the main point of synthesizer is the synthesizer actually produce the sound by itself. You know, like it's producing, and then you could make your own music by using synthesizer. The keyboard is like mainly mainstream, and you could just play anything. But if you want to recreate music, maybe you could use synthesizer because it's like giving you a lot of opportunity, and then there's like a lot of effects and so on. Okay, the third is the power of synthetic audio has helped define 21st century music, and it remains the key element within countless genres. So what does it mean is synthetic audio actually help a lot at music like hip hop, rock, and all of the genres, and it actually being the backbone of a music genres. So it's like basically the synthesizer is used by a lot of genres of music at in 21st century music. Okay. Okay, so what is the example? Maybe most of you guys know there's Let It Happen by Tame Impala. It's like Australian band. So it's like really dry from a heavy synth. And then the second is Europe, the final countdown. It's like really has a synth on the song. It's like really heavy synth. So it's like two basic songs that could be a epitome of what is synthesizer used for. Okay, so okay. Oh, my God. Sorry, I got like okay. So what is the purpose or why? First of all, I want to understand how physics apply in synthesizers, because synthesizers actually circling around with technologies, and how it produces the sound is actually mostly from technologies, and really just around technologies and physics. And the second is to determine the effect of synthesizers in music industry. So what does it mean? Is we all know that the genres is like really diverse right now in these 20 music centuries, and being said that synthesizer is like backbone of the music is like really affecting a lot at music industry. So that's my main purpose on searching what is synthesizer and stuff like that. Okay, so how does it work? Maybe it's like I'm gonna give it a brief example. So synthesizer, as we all know, it generates sound waves or different shapes. So we could make a sound that really diverse from just one device. And then second is like generate more than one sound tone at once to produce a fundamental frequency and harmonic. So like maybe a synthesizer could make a sounds of like engine and then like footwalk and stuff like that. It's like really diverse. And how does it work is from basically physics and technologies behind it. And last is make the volume of the sound change over time to produce different SDR envelope shape. So this is about enveloping music. So the SDR is like the music change and how does the tempo and rhythm change in the music. So beside of generating sound, it could change the sound itself, like it's making the volume sound change and produce like delay and all how the tempos and rhythm goes like that. And then so this is my reference. I took a lot from Apple Incorporations and then Jenkins and Mark, and then honoring the moment when music met Moog. So Moog is like the inventor, and then Rea Tom, Professor Rea Tom, electronic production and design department. So that's mainly my references. And then that's it. Thank you so much. So there's a quote from Plato: "Music is the movement of sound to reach the soul for the education of its virtues." So the music is like really a great influence for us and for me as well. So thank you so much, and then have a good day. So that's it, Mr. Harry.
Okay, thank you. See, I think that is good. That is good. Even okay. Well, the time limit, you exceed more than 3, obviously, because you have many things to cover in this introduction. But after you break that nervousness, you able to deliver the content very well. Okay, so thank you for that, and then let me give you some kind of a feedback on your presentation. Still, the beginners mistakes that students have is that you still putting sentences. Okay, so for example, if you could you go back to your slide number 3 or 2?
Okay, wait a second, Mr.
Mhm.
Is it the one?
Okay, I will
wait.
comment on your reference list later on.
Oh,
Before this.
before this. Okay.
Before this one also.
For this one also. Okay.
Before. Nah, like
Okay.
in this slide, obviously you use sentence like for most human history, music could be only produced in a limited number of ways. Period. So it's still a sentence. It is better for you to use keywords. So for example, for example, like in the past, music produced limited. Okay, it's a short passage, or limited in the past, or something like this. So instead of using sentences like this one, okay, it is better for you to use keywords, so that the focus, so that with that keywords you just saying the sentences from your voice instead. So the audience will not look on the slide to read all the sentences, but to hear the explanation from yourself. Okay, so that is my feedback on this one. And then in terms of pronouncing produce, it is not produce. Okay, maybe you hear a lot about production. Okay, but if it is written as produce, like this one, or producing, it is pronounced as producing, not producing or something like that. Okay, so it is not produce but produce. And then maybe since it is kind of sudden for this assignment, that there are pauses, there are stops when you describe one section to another. So if you able to practice a little bit more, probably the number of pauses could be reduced as well. And then, okay, next to the, okay, so for those of you who are from physics department, this is the slides styles of Radino's presentation is one example of not formal, okay, not formal, for a scientific, so for this class, this is this slides is acceptable. Okay, is acceptable because the topic itself is related to the music, entertainment, etc., and so on. So that if we have it in a formal, in a formal black and white and conservative way, it becomes too boring. Okay, it becomes it becomes not that eye-catching. So good job in selecting this slide design. It is very good. Okay, go to the next one. To the next slide, please.
Okay.
Okay, so this one you could mention briefly, and you managed to done that, but due to the pauses that you have in the previous slides, the time limit becomes exceeding. Okay, remember, next week we're going to have 8 minutes presentation, so make sure you're not going to exceed that time limitation. Okay, next slide, please.
Okay. Wait.
Yeah, the lagging is not that awful. I mean, the internet connection on today's presentation from your place to my computer is relatively okay, and hopefully for the students who enrolled in this class, when watching the presentation, also have the same viewing with this one. Okay, what is the purpose? Okay, this is better. Okay, to understand how physics applied. This is keywords. This is small phrases. So instead of too much or too long sentence, right? It is better to use this simple phrases like this one. Okay, to understand, to determine. This is good. Okay, next.
Thank you, Mr.
Next. This one, right? So it is a sentence. Generate sounds of different shape. Generate. So how does it work? It's okay. So for this one, okay. So I guess the thing that is not matched with the design is that the phrases doesn't have that bullet point. So maybe you could use, well, since the design itself is not that formal, maybe you could use different colors. So it is not too monotonic. So you already use a black, you already use a black font for the title, right? But in the descriptions below, okay, you could choose to have a white one. Look at your dots, okay? On your left side of your slide, there are white and black dots. White and black dots, which you can use that for your content, right? Generate sounds of different shapes. Okay, so that is one process. Okay, and then the second process is to generate more than one sound. Okay, here is the sentence, okay, which I recommend you to reduce it into a small phrase, into a short phrase. Make the volume, the sound change. This is also a sentence that you can choose, that you can change into a shorter phrase. Okay, so the first one is okay. Generate sounds, generate sound wave of different shapes. That's one phrase. It is not a full sentence. And then the second step is to generate one sound tone to produce fundamental frequency. Okay, so, or you could also to design it with a smaller fonts. So there are some alternatives that you can use to improve the visuals on this slide. Okay, next.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Okay.
Okay, next, references. Okay, never use references. Okay, never use references. So for my class, I'm not going to recommend everybody to put the reference list on your PPT. It is more appropriate on the paper, okay, in your scientific paper, but not on your presentation. However, take notes that your advisor or your examinee will be different from one person to another. Sometimes there will be a person who asks you to put the reference list, but for myself, the listing of references in your PPT, it is not common. Okay, it is not common in scientific meeting or in scientific talk to have that references. Even if you are listening to TED presentation, they will not give you, this is my reference list, right? So so don't use reference list as the closing. Okay, next.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the closing is supposed to be that, yeah, the thank you and this quote from Plato. This is the best. This is the best option for your closing. Okay, so I guess that is okay. Okay, another feedback is that when you pronounce engine, okay, it is not engine. Yeah, it is not engine, but engine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as well as in the previous correction, it is not produce but produce, and then the second one is not engine but engine. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Radina. It is a very well done presentation. The time limit is obviously above 3 minutes, but the overall impression of your slides is okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. for the advice.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay, could you? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let us continue to the second agenda. Okay, so so if Jihad, Rafli, Chiska, Gelar, and Hassan could not make it for today, I will waiting for your talk on Monday, or if you're still not able to, due to the sickness or due to some kind of a medical condition, that cannot be avoided, it is better for you to make a video presentation of your 3 minutes presentation. Okay, so that is for listening to the 3-minute presentation by Radina. And let us move on to the next agenda. Okay, could everybody see the screen that shows the questionnaire result?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so from this questionnaire, the head of physics department asked us to discuss about it. And overall, I guess you gave me a, well, so as a self critique of myself, I'm aware that teaching English in the correct grammar is not my forte. Okay, it is not my specialty because I am not a English language or English literature graduate. So I'm sorry if I'm have that deficiency in terms of using the proper language or using the proper grammar for teaching you, right? However, from your questionnaire, I do see that the overall impression is in grade 5 and 4, which is the maximum, the maximum response. Okay, thank you for that. But there are some students. The total respondent for the questionnaire is 15. So it is basically a half of our students list, which is 31. And then, okay, so many of you have the relevant information that you need to have for this class. And then the class is well organized. And then, okay, I'm having the outcomes of this lecture. So, well, overall, I guess every one of you have that potential to improve in terms of delivering a presentation and also in terms of writing a paper, right? Because I already sent you the feedbacks on your paper writing, and obviously I'm not going to review all of your grammatical error because that is not my expertise. However, I tend to look upon the logical flow of your content, and also if you're able to write it simpler, okay? Myself, who I'm not coming from nuclear physics, who are not coming from communication, who are not coming from theoretical physics or instrumentation physics, because myself is coming from earth physics. If you're able to write it in simpler, in a simpler way without adding too many technical terminologies, then your paper will be okay, right? Because the paper that you wrote or the paper that you present for this class and also for your defense will be different. For your defense is obviously it needs to be technical. It needs to be a lot of scientific jargon, etc. and so on. So, but for this class, if you're able to make it simpler, then that is a plus sign. Okay, the teacher is communicating effectively. Okay, thank you. And then why does this has a repetitive? Why does this one has a repetitive? Questions or okay? It's well organized. The teacher is caring with the ability of students to grasp the outcomes. Okay, all right. Thank you all for your comments. And the meetings. Okay, and the meetings or the lecture itself is delivered in such a way that the student is going to grasp the outcomes. Yeah, obviously. So after this class, you're able to write your own presentation, your own scientific paper. So the language barrier should not be the bother. Okay, because here in scientific communication class, we teach you in English because in some points, after you graduating from physics or after you graduating from university, you need to talk in different language, right? In different settings, etc., and so on. So this is maybe the only opportunity that you have in ITB or in Unpad to have this type of class that you talk about a certain thing in English, okay? But so that the language barrier, so the language used in this class should not be the barrier or should not be the bother for you to grasp the knowledge that you have in terms of how you present a paper, on how you present a poster, or how you prepare a slide presentation, or how you speak in front of all this, or speak in front of in public speaking, for example. Well, obviously, here in scientific communication, we're not going to focus more on public speaking as those people who are responsible in the governments, or for those people who become master of ceremony, or those people who are those in entertainment, because we are done more on how we as a scientist, or how we as a students of science, or students who interested in science is going to talk about scientific things, or how or we're going to talk about the thing that we interest in a logical way, in a formal and informal way, for a scientific or in an academic settings, right? So that is basically the objective of this class, that you able to communicate the things that you research, the thing that you interest, that the thing that you are going to explain to the audience, which also have the similar background in scientific or in academic communities, and then you deliver them, and you basically communicating the topic that you choose, the topic that you want to deliver via paper, poster, or oral presentation. Okay, and then next time, if we have the chance to discuss on how we respond to the question, or how we respond to audience's response, to respond to the question made by the audience, because it is because attending a meeting, or attending or delivering a topic in your defense is basically also one example of communicating between ourselves and the audience, whereas the audience could be a mere public, could be a peer students, or your advisor in the defense settings. Okay, so here the feedbacks are, okay, good, this course is going well, and then more feedback would be nice. Okay, I think when we have classes earlier, I didn't give too much feedback because we didn't have the, we haven't done the introduction paper yet, and also we haven't done the 3 minutes presentation yet. So here I have already done my homework in the slides that I gave you in EduNext. I guess I've gave you the response or the feedback of your work from your paper introduction and also from your presentation. Okay, let me check. Okay, okay, so therefore, okay, so for those of you who wants to have the feedback of your paper, sorry, of your introduction paper, you could grab on the G drive that I mentioned here. Okay, that I put it over here, and then the feedback on your presentation, it should be on this one. Okay, class progress and 3 minutes presentation evaluation over here. Oh, why does it? Okay. Okay, this one, right? Okay. Okay, you can get your feedback over. So I guess I'm just going to thank everybody for gave the feedback for the mid-semester feedback for this class, and I'm asked one representative from the students to sign the questionnaire statement letter, and since the response of your questionnaire gave a positive response, so that the current class activities has been planned carefully and it is considered good and beneficial for student learning. So no improvement needs to be done for the rest of the semester, because the lecturer, myself, I've already gave you feedbacks on your presentation and as well as your paper introduction. Okay, so who wants to be the class representative for this one? Or should I appoint one student as the class representative? Okay, let me see. We have 27. Okay, we have 27. Okay, so okay. Do we have Adrio Rifan in the classroom?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you? Is it okay for you to become the class representative to sign this statement letter?
Yeah, I think.
Okay. Okay. I think I'm still having your number from our past WhatsApp group, but if not, then you could send me your email or send me a quick message through WhatsApp, right? Okay.
WhatsApp.
Okay. So
Yes.
I will send this statement letter to your number so that you can sign, and then I will give this statement letter to the administrator in the physics department. Okay, thank you, Adrio.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so with this, I think we are done with today's agenda. We haven't talked much about how we import citation, but I think I have talked about how we use Zotero, or how we use EndNote whenever we grab some kind of a reference from the internet, and then we put it in a database. I guess we already talked about it, but so that we don't need to talk much about how we import citation to our paper or into the PPT. However, if you have questions regarding how to import citation, I will let you do that probably on Monday when we have the presenter workshop. But I guess we could just move on to the next session, which is basically the preparation for your 8 minutes presentation. Okay, so next week I'm going to remind you again to prepare for your 8 minutes presentation that talks about your introduction, basic theory, and the methods so it's basically the three. So usually in scientific talk, we have 5 sections, right? We have the opening, the introduction, the basic theory, the method, and the analysis and result, and then the conclusion. Okay, so the first 3, the introduction, the basic theory, and the method and the methodology that you use for your study is basically the content of your 8-minute presentation. If you're not going to describe, well, at least you have this 5 chapter of your selected topic. So use the first 3 of the 3 section or the 3 chapter of your studies of your selected topics as your 8-minute presentation slides. Okay, so with that, I'm going to, okay, here in the chat. Okay, with this, I am just going to stop the screen sharing and also to thank everybody to attending the class. We'll see you again on Monday for reviewing your slide production. And I'm just going to ask for student volunteer to see for their slide design, slide content, etc. Okay, thank you all. We will see you again on Monday. Let me turn off the recording.